Hey everyone, welcome back to Crystal Clear Tarot. My name is Sian and today we're going to talk about some of the most feared cards. The so-called scary tarot cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. The ones that often cause a pang of anxiety. You know the ones, cards like Death, the Devil, the Tower, the Ten of Swords and the Three of Swords. If you've ever pulled one of these cards and felt a wave of anxiety, I want you to take a deep breath because today we're flipping the script. These cards don't predict disaster. They don't mean that your life is about to fall apart. Instead, they are some of the most powerful catalysts for healing, transformation and growth. They shine a light on the things that we need to release, the patterns that we need to break, and the truth that we need to face in order to evolve. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's explore the real meaning behind these cards and how they can help you step into your power. Before we get into each card, I want you to think about something. Why do we fear certain cards? What is it about an image, a symbol, or even a single word that triggers something deep inside us? You see, tarot is a mirror. It reflects our subconscious, the fears, the wounds, the unspoken truths that we haven't fully yet faced. So if you find yourself feeling anxious when you pull a certain card, that's actually a good thing. It means your intuition is trying to show you something important. Psychologist Carl Jung spoke of the shadow self, the parts of us that we suppress, deny, or hide from the world. These so-called scary tarot cards, they are invitations to work with that shadow, to integrate it and to heal from it. They don't bring negativity, they bring awareness. And awareness is the first step towards transformation. So let's start with the Devil. This card often sparks fear because of how it looks. We see two naked figures bound in chains beneath a creepy looking horned creature. It screams, "I'm vulnerable and trapped." But look closer. The chains around their necks, they're loose. They could remove them at any time. This tells us that we're not as trapped as we think we are. This card represents self-imposed limitations, addictions, toxic relationships, destructive thought patterns, and fear-based beliefs. When the Devil shows up, it's asking, where in your life are you keeping yourself stuck? I remember long ago when this card kept appearing for me over and over. At the time, I was caught up in a cycle of unhealthy relationships and self-sabotage. I didn't want to face my reality, but the Devil kept showing up and freaking me out. Eventually, I had to ask myself, what exactly am I clinging on to? And how is it serving me? If this card appears for you, don't see it as a bad omen. See it as an opportunity to break free. The Devil's lesson is simple. You have more power than you realise. The chains aren't locked. You just have to decide to remove them. The Devil shines a light on the chains we often pretend not to see. Limiting beliefs, toxic attachments, fear-based behaviours and cycles that keep us stuck. It's the moment of realisation when we become aware of the ways that we give away our power or keep ourselves small. It asks us to confront our shadow, not to shame us, but to wake us up. Sometimes this card shows up when we need to face our shame, sit with it, and be compassionate with ourselves rather than judge. As we move deeper into our tarot journey, the transition from the Devil to the Tower is one of the most transformative shifts in the major arcana. Together, these cards tell a story of awakening, release, and radical change. The tower depicts a jolt of divine truth that breaks the illusion completely. Where the devil reveals the cage, the tower smashes it wide open. It's the universe stepping in to say, no more. The structures built on fear, denial, or ego must fall, so that something real and honest can rise in their place. Now, the imagery in the Tower card is dramatic, right? Lightning strikes, people free falling, and the structure crumbles. It looks chaotic, and it is, but there is always a reason. The Tower represents sudden, unavoidable change, the kind that shakes you to your core. But here's the thing, this isn't random destruction. The tower falls because it wasn't built on solid ground. If we refuse to free ourselves from the chains of the devil, the universe steps in with the tower. Sometimes we ignore the warning signs. We cling to what's familiar, even if it's hurting us. Then the tower comes along and says, enough. It feels like your world is falling apart. But in reality, you're being freed from something that was never meant for you. Every tower moment I've had in my life, whether it was losing a job, leaving a toxic relationship, or having an epic meltdown, pushed me onto a path that I needed to be on. This transition is intense, yes, but it's also deeply healing. The tower is not here to destroy you, but to free you. What crumbles was never meant to last. What remains will be the truth of who you are. And when I reflect on my Tower card moments, I realise it was the best thing that could have happened to me, placing me on the right path for my soul. So if you find yourself in the midst of a personal Tower moment, know this: you are not being punished, you are being liberated. And from the rubble, a stronger, wiser, more authentic self will emerge. If the Tower card shows up for you, trust that something better is being built in its place. It's a moment of divine intervention. Death. Just the word can send a chill down the spine, and in tarot it's no different. Often labelled as one of the scariest cards in the deck, death is shrouded in fear, thanks in part to its dramatic imagery and how it's portrayed in movies and TV, flashing ominously before a character meets a tragic end. The skeletal knight riding through a field of fallen figures evokes the Grim Reaper himself, here to claim what's his. This striking image has stuck with me since childhood. But here's the truth. Death is rarely about physical death. Instead, it symbolises one of the most powerful forces in tarot: transformation. This card is about endings, yes, but the kind that make space for a new beginning. In the background, the sun rises between two towers, quietly assuring us that after every ending, the light returns. Death invites us to shed what no longer serves, old identities, outdated beliefs, and worn-out emotional patterns, so that we can evolve and grow. For a long time, death was the card that unsettled me most. Every time it showed up in a reading, I felt a wave of anxiety. But it wasn't death itself that scared me. It was the grief that I hadn't allowed myself to feel, the fear of letting go, and the uncertainty of what would come next. I was clinging to the past, afraid that if I let go, I would fall apart. But the truth is, I was holding on to pain that needed to be released. I was keeping myself trapped in a cycle of avoidance. When I finally faced the card with open eyes and an open heart, I found healing and I found freedom. So now I welcome the death card whenever it appears, because I know it means I'm ready to move forward. So are you resisting change? Holding on to something simply because it's familiar, even if it no longer serves you? Death reminds us that we cannot begin a new chapter if we're still rereading the last one. It's okay to let go. Mourn what's gone. Then turn towards the sunrise. You're being called to transform. It's impossible to look at the Ten of Swords without fearing an attack. At first glance, the imagery looks brutal. 10 blades plunged into the back of a fallen figure. A scene of utter devastation. It's the kind of image that makes people wince, often labelled as one of the most disturbing cards in the deck. And most of us can relate to the feeling of being metaphorically stabbed in the back. The ultimate betrayal can be the biggest emotional challenge we'll ever face. But here's what most people miss. The darkness is lifting. Behind the pain, the sky is beginning to clear. A golden dawn is breaking on the horizon. And that's not just the backdrop, it's the whole message of this card. Yes, the 10 Swords speaks of betrayal, burnout, loss, and rock bottom moments. It's about the times life brought you to your knees. But this card also represents a powerful turning point. Finality. The worst has already happened. The storm has passed. And you are still here. And that means something. Think of a time when you truly believed you wouldn't make it through. When the weight of everything felt too heavy to bear. And yet you did. You found a way. You grew. You healed and you rose. This card asks you not to see yourself as a victim of your past, but as a survivor of it. A warrior who has faced pain, processed it, and come out wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. You've earned every scar, and now they serve as maps for others who are still in the dark. The Ten of Swords is a reminder that even in your most broken moments, there is hope. That rock bottom is not the end. It's the solid ground from which you rebuild. So don't fear this card. Wear it like a badge of honour. Let it remind you of your resilience, your capacity to transform, and your ability to rise again and again. You've been through the worst. Now it's time to reclaim your power. And finally, let's talk about one of the most iconic and often dreaded cards in the tarot. The Three of Swords. 3 blades pierce a bright red heart, suspended in a stormy sky. It's a visceral image, raw, emotional, and unforgettable. And yes, at first glance, it hurts to look at. But I want you to see it differently. This card doesn't just represent heartbreak, it represents honesty. It reflects the moments when truth cuts through illusion, when we can no longer ignore the pain we carry. Whether it shows up after a breakup, a betrayal, or the loss of someone we love, the Three of Swords reminds us that the only way to truly heal is to feel. We're often taught to push away pain, to keep moving and to stay strong by staying silent. But healing doesn't happen through suppression. It happens through acknowledgement. Through the brave act of sitting with our grief, our sadness and our disappointment and letting it move through us. Every heartbreak you've survived has shaped you. It's made you wiser, more self-aware, and more compassionate. The Three of Swords is not just about sorrow. It's about the transformation that sorrow invites. The Three of Swords also calls us to forgive, not to excuse what hurt us, but to release the weight of pain we no longer need to carry. It invites us to soften, not harden to our experiences, and to move on in a way that honours our growth. And here's the truth about the so-called scary cards in the tarot. They aren't here to scare you. They're here to liberate you. They reveal the places within us that are still tender, still healing, and still in need of love and attention. These cards are mirrors, showing us not what to fear, but what to face so that we can move forward stronger and more whole than before. So the next time any so-called scary tarot cards appear in a reading, pause and reflect. Instead of reacting with dread, ask yourself, what is this card here to teach me? You may just find that your deepest pain becomes the doorway to your greatest breakthrough. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into the scary tarot cards. If this video resonated with you, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tarot deep dives. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which tarot card sparks the most fear in you? And what might it be trying to show you? Until next time, remember, fear stands for face everything and rise. I'll see you in the next video.